It is 11 a.m. here, live. Welcome to our online plant-based cooking class. My name is Melissa. I'm HealthAware's registered dietitian and personal trainer. You're here. We made it. I am in a different location today, a new kitchen than I was last month. We moved. So this is the new setup for now. Hopefully it'll work. Maybe we'll get some curtains to block out that light. But hopefully this will work for us today. We can even use the cooktop. So yay. We're doing 2 recipes today. So before we get started, I am going to put these onto this video so that you can have the recipes right there at hand if you're watching the video. You are also welcome to email me and I will send you a PDF printable version of the recipes. There's our first one. And here we go with our second one. And there's the second one. I do apologize in advance for any cats that get in the way. I'm hoping they will not, but this house is not quite as appropriate for cooking classes as our other one. The other one had a door in the kitchen. So anyway, I apologize in advance. Here we go. We are ready. 2 recipes for today. I'm starting a holiday series today. So this month, November and December, all of our recipes will be kind of within this holiday theme. So for this week's class, this month's class, we are making something on the more healthy side and then something in the dessert realm. So our first recipe is apple pomegranate, that's right. Apple pomegranate kale salad. Apple pomegranate kale salad. And then our other recipe that we'll do second is a no-bake pumpkin cheesecake, one of my favorite holiday recipes. So let's get started with the salad. That's what we're doing first. You'll notice in the recipe, not a lot of ingredients, so that's great, right? We're gonna start with our kale actually. So this is the first ingredient you'll need. This is a 10-ounce bag. 10-ounce bag of kale. This is shredded kale. You can get whatever type of kale you want. I prefer this more curly type of kale. See if I can get a piece to show you. I prefer the curly kale. So it's got a little bit more curly edges to it. I prefer this rather than the dinosaur kale or the, I think it's lacinato kale. I think that's what it's called. That is a little bit more tough, I find. So we're using the curly kale today. This is a 10-ounce bag. We're just going to add this into our bowl, all of that kale. It will shrink down quite a lot as we go through our recipe. You can take out any of these, you see these large stems, you can take out any of those that you see right off the bat. Those aren't particularly nice to eat. So removing the big stems. All right. We don't need this. Oh my word. Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm gonna just have a trash can nearby. So the cats were taking naps before this, and then suddenly now that I'm here talking, here they are. All right. So this is not just a like raw plain kale salad. This is actually a massaged kale salad. Most people, if they don't like kale, they've only had it raw. They haven't had it like processed if they don't like it. So a massaged kale salad is a much, much nicer thing to eat. I don't really like kale unless it's cooked really well or if it's a massaged kale salad. Eating this by itself is not particularly enjoyable. So how we do that, I've got my gloves on. You don't have to use gloves if you don't want to, but I've got my gloves on. And we have our olive oil for our dressing. We're actually going to take 1 tablespoon of that olive oil, 1 tablespoon, and we just add it onto the kale. So from here, we just massage it, and I'm hoping a cat doesn't jump up here right now because my hands are dirty. So massaging it, so basically just squeezing the kale and the olive oil. This is why it's nice to have gloves. The olive oil will coat all of the pieces of kale, and as you massage it, you start to break it down a little bit so that when you're eating it, it's not quite so tough. We're somewhat already starting the digestion process is what I would call it, but the mechanical breakdown of the kale already. It may not take 2 to 3 minutes. That's what I have in the recipe. It may be quicker than that. It's kind of whatever you'd prefer. And once you have it kind of squished down like this, you can also see some of the bigger stems that you might want to pick out. So massaging the kale down. Keep going. You want to keep going until it has reduced significantly in size, which this already has, and to where it starts to look and feel kind of like, not like it's cooked, but it's definitely not the raw format that it was initially. Much softer. I mean, you don't want to squish it till it's completely mutilated, but want to make sure that it is pretty soft, pretty broken down. So that's probably about good. Okay, so you can see that it is significantly decreased in size. I'm going to take these gloves off. Lost a piece of kale over the side. So it's much, much smaller in size. And you can see that it kind of has a darker green color to it as well. So that is what we want. We're going to leave this off to the side. Off to the side while we finish the rest of the ingredients. So the next thing that we're going to do is actually go over to this pan. Dry pan, we're going to do our pecans now. Dry pan, no oil, nothing in it. We're just going to toast actually the pecans. Oops, that's the wrong burner. We're going to toast the pecans. So medium-low heat, not a super, super high heat. Just a little bit to kind of warm the pan up. So I've got a 1/2 cup of chopped pecans right here. These are raw pecans, not salted, not roasted. They are just raw, nothing else added to them. Okay, and we're just going to add these. These are kind of chopped, I don't know if you can see that, but sort of chopped consistency. We're going to add those into our dry pan and just let them get a little bit, as the pan warms up, these are going to start to toast, and we can probably start our next ingredients as those are toasting. You just want to make sure to keep stirring them around so they don't burn. You want them to be toasted, so you can see some of the inside parts of it, the whitest part on them. You want to see that become a little bit more golden brown. Okay, so while those are going, we can start with our dressing, which is not very complicated at all. Isn't that wonderful? I've got my little bowl here, and into the bowl we're going to do all the rest of the dressing ingredients. So the remaining 4 tablespoons of your olive oil, and this is extra virgin olive oil. If you're using an oil, extra virgin is one of the best ones. Good for heart health more than many of the other oils. So I am using, give these guys a little bit of a stir. I'm using that one, 4 tablespoons, which is the same thing as a 1/4 cup, in case you're wondering. So 4 tablespoons going into there. If you are trying to make a slightly lower fat or a lower calorie salad, you certainly could reduce the amount of oil. You could even massage the kale with some acid. So like an olive oil, like a lemon juice, that's what I meant, like a lemon juice. That can also help the kale break down a little bit rather than using oil. So we've got our oil in here. A little stir. Okay, hang on. Okay, olive oil. The next thing we add to it is our apple cider vinegar. So I've got 2 tablespoons right here of just plain old apple cider vinegar. Add that right on in. Trying not to make a mess today. Usually it happens. And then we add in 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. This is actually whole grain Dijon mustard, so it's got the actual little like pieces, the little whole pieces. So we add that in, hopefully. I have a spoon just in case I can't get everything out of the container. So that's 1 tablespoon of the Dijon mustard. And then we're doing just a half teaspoon of maple syrup, just a little bit of sweetness against all of the more tangy ingredients, the vinegar and the mustard. Add that guy in there. Okay. And then we are doing a half teaspoon of chili powder, actually. So this is just regular old chili powder mix. Make sure it's not like cayenne pepper, but actual chili powder, okay? There is a difference. So that's a half teaspoon going in there. And then we're adding just a crack of salt, if I can find my salt. You can do also a pinch of salt into the kale as you're massaging it. I obviously didn't. In the recipe it says to do that. You can, you don't have to. Sometimes it can help break it down a little bit more nicer. Gotta keep an eye on these pecans, don't let me forget about those. All right, so just a little bit of salt in there, not too much. A few little cracks, okay? We're whisking it all together. Whisk, whisk, whisk. Get that all stirred up. So if you're using a whole grain mustard like I am, it'll have obviously more of a texture to it. You can see the particles in it. If you're using just a regular Dijon mustard, it'll be much more of a fluid or you won't see the large particles in it, right, of the whole grain mustard. So whichever kind you have is fine. So there's our dressing, all right, ready to go. I'm gonna set that off to the side. Check on our pecans over here. So you want to keep going until you can start to smell them. You want them to be fragrant, obviously not a burnt fragrance, but you want the nuts to be able to be that fragrant. You can smell the pecans over the top, okay? They don't have to be super, super dark or anything. So I'm just gonna go ahead and turn the heat off for now. Keep the heat off, let them sit there for another moment or so. And then the last part of this, I've already got the pomegranate seeds. If you want to buy a fresh pomegranate and de-seed it, you're welcome to, or you can just go to the store. This is from Trader Joe's. They have a container already of pomegranate seeds already for you, so you don't have to deal with opening up on yourself. If you don't like pomegranate, you can also use dried cranberries. That is a great addition to this salad in place of these. But just keep in mind that those cranberries have much more sugar. Cranberries always have sugar added to them when they're dried cranberries. You can get lower sugar versions, but it will add more calories than the pomegranate will, okay? So we've got that. And then the last ingredient is this apple. This is just a regular Fuji apple. I like one that's a little bit more on the sweet side, so I would use like a Fuji apple or maybe a Gala apple, something like that. Not like a Granny Smith apple. We wouldn't want that in here. Something that's a little more towards the sweet side. You can cut this however you want. It doesn't really matter that much. I am actually just going to do little slices. Make sure I don't chop my finger off here on a live video. That would be no good. So just some slices. You can do matchsticks, you can do cubes, however you want to do it. Totally up to you. However you think would look pretty. Okay, just do a few more. So you would use the full apple. We'll just do, I obviously need a sharper knife, don't I? Don't cut your finger off, Melissa. Woo! Oh my goodness, I almost cut my finger off. Okay, that'll be enough for now, right? We've got our pecans, we've got the apple, the pomegranate, our dressing, and now our salad. So we're going to add the dressing into the salad right now. Okay. All of that goes in. Try not to make a mess. Okay. I'm really worried about this falling. Okay. There we go. Just do that. All right. In there it goes. Just give it all a little bit of a stir to get the actual dressing part mixed in with the salad. I've got a serving platter here that you can see it a little bit better. So there's all of our salad mixed in. Got my serving platter. Oh, did someone have a question? Let me look really quick. Love the new, oh yeah. Oh, thank you. It's very honey colored. It's very honey colored in here. All right, add the salad onto your serving platter. Okay. The nice thing about this new kitchen is that I can cook for you actually this time. We can use our stove a little bit better, so that's kind of nice. I am making a little bit of a mess. Okay, so there we have the kale part. Ooh. Sorry about that. That was probably pretty loud in the camera. All right, so there we have the kale portion. All right, and then we will add, I'm gonna grab all these with my bare hands. So pomegranate seeds go on top. I love the way this salad looks for the holidays because it's kind of got Christmassy colors going on. So I love that. You don't have to use all of the pomegranate seeds if you don't want. Totally up to you, of course. Just do that amount. And then we've got our apples. So I did mine in little slices, right? Kind of fan them out. You can do them however you like, but it does look kind of nice when you fan them out. Okay, so I have them pretty thinly sliced, right? And then I'm just fanning them out for the presentation part. So this is obviously if you're doing a nice dinner or lunch or something and you want to have nicer presentation, that's what you could do. And then the final part is these pecans. They're still a little bit warm. Don't want to use my hands. I'll just use my hands. So sprinkling these on top. Again, use however many you want. There's obviously a lot of kale underneath this pile, so on top may not need as many right now. Okay. And there is, oh, you can't even see that. Here is our beautiful, oh, don't want to drop you. Here, where are we? There we go. There is our salad. Our lovely, lovely kale salad. Okay. So presentation, whoopsies. Presentation however you like, but there's how I have mine. So you're gonna leave that off to the side. Tilt you up just a little bit more. Any questions? So pretty, yay, thank you. What else did you say? Oh, yay, so pretty, thank you. Yes, simple, very easy salad, very easy dish to make. But the presentation looks really, really nice to impress whoever you are making food for. I love that. I'm gonna clean this part up, get this out of our way, and then we'll move on to our other recipe, our dessert recipe. I'm definitely gonna drop something. Okay. Get this out of the way. I love making desserts, so we're getting another dessert today. Something I love making and something I love eating. It's good to eat. Hold on. This one has a little bit more equipment that goes along with it. Okay. You will need 2 appliances for this recipe. So I've got a food processor. It's kind of a short leash for the machines. So we're going to do our best. Okay. All right. I think we've got everything now. Oh, let me get. Okay. someone had maybe a question. Both of these work for my food elimination. Oh, good, good. Yay! Good, I'm glad. So yeah, there's not a lot of ingredients in these, nothing too crazy. So they generally work for most people's diets unless you are allergic to nuts. And then these would both actually be a no-go. You could omit the pecans from the salad, but the dessert, definitely not nut-free. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do, this is our vegan and gluten-free, no gluten in this recipe, no-bake pumpkin cheesecake. That's what we're making now. You will need a 9-inch springform pan. Is ideal if you don't have a springform pan. A regular 9-inch like cake pan would work. A pie pan might work, but they tend to be a little more shallow. So this is probably ideal, a cake pan or a springform pan. The springform pan has a little clamp on it, and it actually opens up just like that. It has a spring, opens up so you can remove the bottom from it really easily. So that's ideal for things like cheesecakes. If you don't have one of those, I highly recommend them. So that's ours. And you'll need a food processor, and off the screen you can't see it, right next to it is a blender. I have a high-speed blender. Whichever blender you have is fine. You may need to blend for just a little bit longer if you have just a regular blender. The high-speed blenders like a Vitamix, those will work a little bit better, but any blender will work. So what we're gonna do, we're starting with the crust. Only 2, barely 3 ingredients if you include a little pinch of salt. So that's what we use our food processor for. I'm gonna get this guy plugged in. Okay. This pan is still hot from the pecans. All right, so using this type of equipment, it might be a little bit loud in the camera, hopefully not too loud. Fingers crossed. So you can mute me if you need to while we are making this. So the only real ingredients that we've got in the crust is dates. I use the medjool dates. This is what I use from Trader Joe's. Dates and walnuts. So again, these, I think it says in the recipe, yes, these are raw walnuts. Got the glare on there. These are raw walnuts, okay? So no salt, no roasting, nothing like that. Just totally raw. Probably if they're dry roasted or dry toasted, that's not the end of the world, but we don't want a bunch of salt added to them. So definitely make sure unsalted walnuts, no salt, okay? So for the dates, first we're gonna start with those. And you want to make sure they don't have any of the pits in them. These ones I've already made sure they don't have any of the pits in them. This is 12 dates. It is actually just about a cup. Usually 12 dates is equivalent to a cup. So we're gonna add these into our food processor. Got all those guys in. We're gonna start with blending these. So it might get a little bit loud. Apologize, everyone cover your ears. Here we go. Oh, power, we need power. There we go. Here we go. We've finished. That was it. That was all the blending for the dates. You want to keep going to where you see the dates start to form kind of these, like balls of the goo. You want to see them form either 1 or 2 like mine are. You want to see them form that so that they're much more broken down than they were in their original form. So got that, and then we're just going to add 1.5 cups of our walnuts. I've already measured this out to 1.5 cups. So 1.5 cups of the walnuts. These are pieces. They are not like whole walnuts. Doesn't really matter. All those go in, and we do just a tiny pinch of salt, a little crack or 2, just a little bit to kind of balance out the really sweetness of the dates. Add the lid back on, and I'm just gonna blend it again to get a really coarse meal, and I'll show you what that looks like when we're finished blending. into a paste or anything like that. So definitely stop blending before it gets to that point. So this is what it looks like. Super simple. I'll come a little closer for you. This is what we look like, okay? Kind of a course meal. I'm going to don my gloves again. Oh, actually, I wanted to show you a little trick with the parchment paper. So I kind of skipped over this step because I wanted to make sure to show you it when we need it. So I do say to line your pan with some parchment paper. That just helps because the dates are very sticky. It helps when you're serving it to not just have it stick to the bottom of your pan. So I always put a circle of parchment paper at the bottom of my pans when I'm doing a cheesecake like this, or really anything in a springform pan pretty much, or even a cake. So what you do, you have just a square of parchment paper, rectangle I guess is what this is, fold it in half, and then fold that in half again. And then from here, you want to fold it into a triangle, okay? Fold into a triangle. All right, all the ends are not gonna be the same size, but you have it folded into a triangle. Then you grab a pair of scissors and you're going to cut. It's kind of like making a snowflake, I guess I would say. So you cut kind of a snow cone sort of shape, okay? And then when you unfold it, you have a wonderful circle that fits right into the bottom of your springform pan. That is my method. That's what I do for all of my pans. Okay, now that we've got that, now I will don my gloves. I know I've said this in previous videos. If you haven't bought a box of disposable gloves like these, I definitely encourage you to, because it's so much easier. It's so much easier to clean up after this, and this also helps prevent stuff from sticking to your hands. So something like this that's really sticky, you don't have to fight with it on your hands. So adding it all into our springform pan right on top of the parchment. Just get this out of the way. Okay. And I'll show you when it's all finished because you can't quite see, I don't think, all this, but spreading it out evenly first of all, so it's all distributed kind of just in a flat layer around the pan, and then we're just gonna press down decently firmly, pressing it down so it's all the way on the bottom, and then it'll start going up the sides a little bit as well. So this should not all just be on the bottom. That would be a decently thick crust. So it will be pushed up the sides, maybe an inch, maybe not quite that much even. Make sure you press down well, because this is kind of the vessel for the liquid of the pumpkin cheesecake that we're putting in. So press down the sides a little bit as well so that the sides are pressed into the container. So all the way around, and I'll show you up close when I'm all finished with this as well. I do have a finished cheesecake ready for us, hopefully. Hopefully it is unfrozen by now. Hopefully. Okay, take those gloves off. So this is what it looks like. We've got it pressed into the sides, so you can kind of see, I'm trying to show you just how deep it is. It's not super, super deep up the sides, right? All the way pressed into the bottom of the sides. Set this guy off to the side, and we'll come back for that in a moment. So the next thing we are doing, we're gonna do the blender part. So I'm gonna switch out my machines. Before you even get started with all of this, you'll notice there's a note in parentheses next to the cashews part of the filling. You do need to soak your cashews before you do this part, do the filling part. Cashews are decently hard, and so we soak them and then drain off the water so that it helps soften them up so they blend into much creamier consistency. I've already done that. I just heated up some water. It wasn't boiling all the way, but very hot water. I added the cashews into that and just let them sit. It's actually been about 2 hours for me now. Let them sit in that water. I've already drained it off. And so now here they are. They are much softer. They'll be a little bit more pale in color and definitely like softer in texture. And these are the cashews I used. Make sure that you are using raw cashews for this. Definitely not salted, definitely not toasted, anything like that. They must be raw cashews. Okay. Now that that's over, let's plug in the blender. I think I can scoot it. There we go. Scoot it into view. So everything for the filling goes into the blender. I do have it in a particular order because sometimes the cashews can get stuck under the blades and things like that. So I add those at the very end. I do all the liquids first, then more of the seasoning things, the spices, and then the cashews at the very end and blend. So the first thing that goes in is almond milk. We have a 1/3 cup. This is unsweetened almond milk. Make sure you get unsweetened. You should be using unsweetened almond milk anyways. Sweetened stuff has too much sugar in it. Not necessary to have that sugar. This is just like a plain flavor. You could use vanilla. It doesn't really matter that much, okay? 1/3 cup going right on into the blender. Okie dokie. There we go. The next thing I'm doing is our pumpkin puree. So it's just regular canned pumpkin, nothing fancy. This is the one I'm using, just regular canned pumpkin from Trader Joe's. Libby's is fine too. You've probably seen canned pumpkin. It's not like pumpkin pie filling though, okay? So 1/3 cup of that going into the blender. All that in. I can smell the salad right now. It's a little bit strange making dessert with a salad smell. And then we're doing the maple syrup. So this is our sugar part. I've got a 1/2 cup. I already measured it out for us. 1/2 cup of maple syrup. Make sure you're using real pure maple syrup. It is more expensive, but it is better. I wouldn't use that imitation type of stuff that's not actually maple syrup. Use the real stuff. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox about that. Real maple syrup always. All of that goes in, okay? Then the next thing on our ingredients is avocado oil. I haven't tried this recipe without the avocado oil. I had people ask me before when I've made this recipe a year or so ago, do you have to have the oil? I don't know the answer to that. To me, it makes it perhaps a bit more creamy as we're blending it up. You could try it without the oil. I can't guarantee results, but I do use avocado oil for this. Extra virgin olive oil and avocado oil are both the healthy oils within the spectrum of oil. Avocado oil is a very neutral flavor, so I find it best for baking and desserts. Extra virgin olive oil definitely has more of a flavor to it, so I save that for things like dressings and cooking type of recipes. So just the avocado oil is going in. I've got 3 tablespoons of that right on in there. You could use coconut oil as well. That actually firms up very well in these types of cheesecakes, but coconut oil does have quite a lot of saturated fat, so I don't use that as much for baking if I can help it. Next going in is our lemon juice, and I already juiced it for us, so you don't have to watch me do that. So I've got the 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. This was 1 large lemon, so probably that big of a lemon. That's what it took just for that. So the 2 tablespoons of lemon juice going right on in there. Tower of containers. And then we're doing vanilla extract. Again, pure vanilla extract, always better than the imitation vanilla extract. I know that it is more expensive, but again, it's worth it. Spend a little bit more. Trader Joe's has decently inexpensive vanilla extract, so I recommend purchasing some of that. So we're doing 1 teaspoon of the vanilla extract right on in there. A couple fun facts about vanilla extract. Have you ever tasted vanilla extract? Just plain, like on a spoon, tasted it? It is one of the worst flavors. It's a terrible, terrible flavor. So if you haven't tried it, not that I recommend you do it, but it is kind of interesting to see because it smells so good and it flavors desserts really, really nicely. But on its own, it tastes horrible. Another fun fact about vanilla extract is it actually is good for burns. So in the kitchen, if you burn your hand on the stove or something, pouring vanilla, the pure vanilla extract, not the fake stuff, but the pure vanilla extract, pouring it over your burns can help with the pain associated with the burn, help it to relieve some of that right away in the acute phase. So another fun fact. All right, moving on. Next, we're doing the spice part. So I've got pumpkin pie spice. This is a pumpkin pie spice from Trader Joe's. They sell many different brands of pumpkin pie spice in different stores. It's all fine. Choose whichever one that you like the most. And add 3/4 of a teaspoon. This is a 1/4 teaspoon, so I'm doing 3 of these to get our 3/4. You don't have to be perfectly exact, it's okay. And then we're doing some cinnamon, just 1/4 a teaspoon of our regular ground cinnamon. That was a little bit more than 1/4. And then we're doing just a little pinch of salt. Again, this recipe does have quite a bit of sweetness to it, so that salty kind of helps mellow it out just the tiniest bit. Before we add our cashews, there is an optional ingredient too, turmeric, all right? So turmeric, it does have a bit of a flavor to it, so I don't wanna add very much, but turmeric helps add some nice color to make the cheesecake even more of that orange yellow type of color. Also, turmeric is very, very good for inflammation. If you have inflammation in your body, whether it's from a surgery or being sick or arthritis, things like that, turmeric can actually help with that inflammation pain and make it better. So we're using turmeric. I'm just gonna do a few little sprinkles in. So it's like not even, probably not even 1/8 of a teaspoon, less than that. Because again, turmeric does have a flavor to it. You can play around with that, add as much as you want. I don't like the flavor of turmeric, but I like the health benefits. So I add just enough so where I can't taste it. And then the final thing we're adding in is our cashews. So 1.5 cups of cashews. There's a little bit of water left in the bottom of this, so I don't want to get the water in there. So I'm just gonna kind of scoop them out with my hands. So when you feel these, they will be definitely softer after you've soaked them. Do make sure that you drain them. Some people will even rinse them off. You don't have to. And there we go. All right, oops, a bit drippy. Rinse my fingers off really quick. All right, so we've got everything into our blender. So this will take just a little bit longer than the crust to blend it all up. So I'm gonna put this on, mute me if you don't want to hear this or if it's too loud in your screen, okay? I'm actually gonna turn it around so I can see what I'm doing. So power on. There we go. So I'm actually gonna turn it up to a decently high blend here to make sure that everything starts breaking down, and that's where it's really creamy when we have it at that higher level, okay? So here we go. Maybe. Hold on. There we go. not done blending yet. Gonna keep going. I want you to see what the consistency looks like when it's all done. It's not the most exciting thing right now. Bear with me. Good enough. So we've got the consistency, maybe you can see that, is it's quite thick, but very creamy, right? I'm not gonna pour it out, don't worry. So very creamy, decently thick, like a thick smoothie. And then we just pour it directly into the pan. I've got my little spatula. It smells so good. I wish that you could smell it. I wish that I could give you samples. That's what we were able to do last year, but alas. So if you want to just come to my house, I'll give you some samples of this. How about that? So pouring it directly in to our pie pan, or our springform pan, I guess is what we call it. All the way in, creamy. Use a spatula, get every last drop. Almost there. This is kind of the boring part, sorry. The blending and the scooping out of the blender. All the way out. Once you have it all the way into your pan, make sure that you then spread it out. There we go. Spread it out into an even layer. It probably won't be too much taller than the actual crust that you have spread out in the bottom of the pan. It'll probably be right around that level. It might go over the sides just a tiny bit. Okay, so I'll show you. Smooth it out. Oops, got some on the side. A little bit for me. Since it's all plant-based, you can just eat it raw. So this is, I'll show you with the camera. This is what it looks like, okay? So it is about the level of the crust, smoothed out. There we go. So once you've got it in this, cover it with plastic wrap and put it into the freezer. So we're actually gonna freeze this. When you are ready to serve, I would wait, I have in the recipe to wait for at least 6 hours to let it freeze. We do want it to be hard all the way through, but you do need to allow for enough time to defrost it when you're ready to serve. I kind of forgot about that part before we started this class, so I'm hoping that mine is defrosted now. I put it in the oven with a light on. So if you panic, oops, a piece of kale got in there somehow. I don't know how that happened. Maybe it was on my apron. So that one we'll put into the freezer, and then we'll pretend it's 6 hours later, and we'll bring out our other one. So it might be a little bit firm for me to cut up, but I will cut up a piece for you to see. So when it's all finished, this is what it looks like. Okay, obviously it is still pretty firm, so you may want to let it sit out. I have 20 minutes written on the recipe. It definitely may take longer than that, okay? With the springform pan, the hope is that you will be able to pop it out easily. Oh, ta-da! So, I'll come again and show you this one. So we've got our lovely cheesecake here. This crust I was able to get a little bit higher up to the sides, you can see. Okay. And then get that out of our way. And then hopefully it'll be soft enough for me to cut it for you. Oh yeah, perfect. If you had some sort of non-dairy whipped cream, that would be ideal for this as well, if you like that sort of thing. Okay. Ta-da! So I'll show you our piece. I'll come a little bit closer with this so you can see. Hopefully I won't drop something. It's highly likely. So this is our piece of the cheesecake. Whoop, there we go. Piece of the cheesecake. This is what it looks like on the inside of our pumpkin cheesecake as well. So it is still decently frozen, but it's soft enough to cut with a butter knife, okay? So that was, what time is it? That was probably about 30 minutes out of the freezer for this one, okay? Again, one of my favorite recipes. I did make this last year when we had an in-person Thanksgiving class, and it was the highlight, I think, of the class. People really liked this one, and a couple people went home and made it for the Thanksgiving that they had a few days later. So definitely a winner. I highly recommend this one. And of course the salad, so we can all get some greens in. There we go. Let me know if you have any questions. I am happy to answer anything, whether you're watching live or the recorded version later on. I love holiday foods, so I'm very excited for the next 2 months to do some more holiday foods for you. Next month's class is actually, so November, it's actually going to be the Monday. So usually this class is on the 4th Wednesday of the month. It's actually going to be on the 4th Monday, because Wednesday is the day before Thanksgiving and I'm not going to be working that day. So we're doing it on Monday, which also gives you a little bit more time if you wanted to make any of the recipes for Thanksgiving, of course. Let me know if you have any feedback. I would love to hear it. Thank you all for watching, whether it's live or the recorded version. I hope you try the recipes. I'd love to know if you tried the recipes. And I will see you next month. Until then, actually, I'll see you tomorrow for exercise class, so come join me then. But until next month for cooking class.